I need to make 200,000. The business probably needs to make 500 or 600,000. Hey everybody, Neil Winteregg back at you with the Matterhorn Business Development YouTube channel. Be sure you click and subscribe, and be sure you stay tuned to what we're going to be talking about. We got a lot of stuff coming at you. Today though, we have something very important to talk about, and that is a trait or a characteristic that you might say that I have found that is common that causes people to fail. What I'm going to be saying that trait and characteristic is the subject of thinkingness, or thinking too small, or not thinking big enough. Now, you've probably seen one or two YouTube videos out there that talk about think big, and everybody goes, we need to think big. But I want to give you some more information about this that you can apply right away, and I want to give you my take on thinking big or thinking too small. And to do that, I'm going to use some props that I found just right outside within arm's reach of myself here this morning as I sat down to film this. So here's what we're going to do. What I find when people who are behind, the business isn't doing so good, they owe people money, you start to get really fixated on cash. You start to get really fixated on making more dollars, and you go, I need to make this much money this week so that I can pay everybody, and I can pay the staff, and I can pay my bills, and I have to make this much money. And you work really, really hard, and you look on it, and you make it, and you work, and then all of a sudden at the end of the week, you've only got this much money. So not only did we not make our goal, but next week we have to make even more money because we still have to make the money we didn't make plus the same amount of money the next week, and it starts to get out of control. And so each week we sit there and we try and make this amount of money. I have even seen people go so far as to make a pile of money and with their own guerrilla math whittle it all the way down and go, well, instead of $10,000, we really only made $500 because they took all their costs and expenses and all sorts of other crap out of it. And so they just made 10 grand, but then they really just sit there and they go, well, we only made 500. So you kind of are already making the hard work and the effort that it took to make $10,000. And you're saying, well, look at how much it took to make 500. And so you kind of all of a sudden get this idea that $500 is hard to make because you actually made 10,000 and then turned it into 500 with your own stupid small thinking. So here's what you have to start looking at, okay? If you need to make a certain amount of money for yourself and pay all of your employees and all of your vendors and all of your other stuff, okay? Let's say it's $200,000 a year. You go, if I make $200,000 a year, Neil, I'm gonna be super happy. This is gonna be exactly what I need. This is my 200,000, but every year I keep only making this. Okay, well, you're thinking too small, okay? So if you need to make 200,000, okay, obviously first off, track your profit because a lot of people never even track their profit. So at least these people are tracking their profit. I will give you props for that, okay? But if you need to make 200,000, you probably need to start figuring out how much the business has to make as a whole to give you that much money and still pay your vendors and still pay people and still do all the other stuff. So then you have to start sitting there and go, well, if I need to make 200,000, the business probably needs to make 500 or 600,000. And you need to start thinking with your big number. And if you do it right, your big number of dollars that you make and the business pulls in will pay all the staff, will pay all the bills, will do everything. And at the end, it will leave you with 200,000. Now, here's the other mistake I see people doing in this situation. They go, I need to make this much personally, so I bet the business probably needs to do this much, and they think with making this much. This is probably too small, okay? You probably need to think with, how do I make this much? So your goal at the end of the year for the business is to make this much, okay? This is what all of your efforts and this is what all of your drive has to be put into doing. Forget about this number. Forget about this number. And you know what? Forget about this number. I want you solely focused on tackling the biggest number that you can think of. This might be $1 million or more for you to make your 200,000 that you want to do. But if you focus on making this and you fall just a tad short and you make this, you're probably still good, okay? But you have to get rid of your considerations about money or your ideas that prevent you. Because when you just focus on the small number and you go, this is what I have to have, you're always going to end up with the smaller amount, okay? You have got to start thinking with, if my business makes this, those are the goals, those are the targets, that's what you have to shoot for. And when you end up with this much money instead of this, you'll be very happy. So get over your own ideas about money, about thinking small. Think with your goal, think with your target, think with this number, and then I want you to add probably another 30, 40, 50% and end up with this number. And this is the number that you have to focus on for your business and for your overall well-being, so that at the end of the year, you end up with the number that you have. And what I find with people who are always falling behind is they're always fixated on this small number and they never make it there. And they never are able to get out of the rut that they're in, and they're always behind because it's always just, if I can just make this week, I'll be fine. If I can just do this, I'll be good. And we put all of our attention on something that's too small, okay? You have to shoot much bigger. You have to shoot much bigger. So instead of shooting for this, shoot for this, okay? And after a few weeks of making a bigger number each week, your financial problems and your worries will start to drift away, and then you can really concentrate on expansion and growth and really hitting your goals. So I hope that that made sense to you. I hope that the idea of thinking big is more than just some abstract motivational speech. I want you to think big, but I want you to look at the overall goal of where you're trying to get to and realize that if you're not getting there, you've probably not been putting in the correct estimation of effort that it takes to achieve your goal because you're aiming for the wrong target. I want you to think on a bigger scale and what actions you have to take to get that bigger goal. And then all of a sudden, all the stuff that you've been fixated on and stuck on with this problem will go away because you're gonna have a whole new set of problems when you try to tackle this one. I'll see you next time.